It is all around us. We live it, we breathe it. It is our way of life, and it is exemplified in everything we do. It is born out of our traditions, our customs, and our art forms. It is our culture. Annually, between April 14th and August 23rd, we celebrate the season of emancipation in Barbados. What exactly is the season of emancipation? Well, it is an opportunity for our people to reflect on our past, honor the contributions of our forefathers, and set goals and aspirations for the future. During this season, several events are held to achieve that goal, including the Emancipation Day Procession, the Jackie Opal Musical Symposium, and the National Heroes Day Community Project. This year's season of emancipation is yet another opportunity for Barbadians to reflect on our past, honor our ancestors, and chart a brighter path for our people. We take a step back and reflect on the many activities held during the 2023 season of emancipation under the theme Reimagining the Past and Celebrating the Future. I'm Rashid Best. I'm pleased that you have joined us on this journey of celebration, education, and reflection. We begin with Special Envoy on Culture and Cultural Heritage, Senator John King, who explains the importance of the season of emancipation.
Well, you would be aware that we had probably a half years of COVID-19. So there were a lot of things that could not have been done. But this was always the plan from 2018 to begin to expand this season of emancipation and to do, just as I had mentioned before, begin to get Barbadians to reflect, to discuss issues that are going to affect us going forward. And especially if you want to change anything, I think one of the rules of thumb is that it's going to take a generation to change mindsets and whatever. So if we put a generation as 30 years, it means you have to start targeting your younger people so that by the time they hit 30s, 40s, these kinds of things become the norm. And so this is, again, the rationale behind this in terms of putting all of the information out there, getting these kinds of discussions going. This education is for everyone, from 0 to 100 and whatever. There's always time for us to learn more about ourselves, the things that we've accomplished, because a lot of our history has been so twisted in terms of the narrative because we were not the ones controlling the narrative. So if someone else writes and carries out pseudoscience and all of these things on you, then everything that you would have learned is from another person's viewpoint. And this gives us the opportunity to, one, tell our own story, two, correct a lot of the false narratives that were out there about ourselves, even in terms of the history of Barbados. Because if the history is written from a British perspective, a lot of things that Black people would have done or accomplished are not going to have a significant role in that history. And so for me personally, this is really the essence of us reclaiming who we are and broadening it also so that persons of East Indian descent who live here, people of European descent who live here, begin to know more about each other by telling these stories.
On April the 28th of every year, we celebrate those outstanding Barbadians who were conferred our highest honor, National Hero. These individuals influenced the lives of many Barbadians positively. In 2023, communities across the island benefited from a special project coordinated by the Community Independence Celebrations Secretariat.
11 parishes, 11 heroes. Each parish has the opportunity to tell a story about their hero that has been assigned to them. So we expect that those persons within the parishes would be, I don't want to use the word bombarded, but that's the word that I would like them to do, to bombard them with information about the hero, things that we sometimes might not think of. And although the activities may vary from one thing to the other because it's left up to the parish independence committees to decide what they're going to do, but the relevant information is going to be given at those events. So that is one that really, really is another thing that we really need all persons within the parishes to come on out and get involved in that.
We were asked to work on our national hero, Basso, right? When we were given that, it was quite fitting because Basso is a Filipino. I call him Basso because during this research, we found out that his name was not actually Bassa, but actually Busso. It was a short time frame, but we were excited to really show our history of where we come from. So often we hear about the fire at Bailey's Plantation, but we never hear the full story behind the fire, what caused the fire back in 1860. So we did our research and we understood that Otterson Plantation played an instrumental part in the riot back in 1816. So much so that there's a plaque in the wall over by Otterson Plantation that has Busso's name in it. This is often overlooked because we all focus on Bailey's Plantation, where it truly ended. So we would have reached out to our community, and the owner of the plantation was very welcoming, very open to having us. And we spoke about it, and he agreed that we can plant a tree in honor of Busso. He decided as well that the pride of Barbados is the tree that we should plant there. And he had so many trees around it, he just said, I'm going to cut this down and make it. I'm even willing to get the plant for you. We were happily able to source the plant from the NCC. Our community again stepped forward and gave us the plant. And today that plant is flourishing over at the Otterson Plantation.
They paid in blood. And this tree has red blossoms. And that's what I thought was also appropriate here. It just reminds people that what they did was important to everybody and they paid the highest price. That's it.
Thank you.
So why did I go back to Otterson Plantation? Because Nanny Gregg, the female who would have assisted Busso in the uprise, would have actually been at Otterson, was a privileged slave over at Otterson Plantation, and she would have used her garments to transfer the messages from one plantation to the next. It was an eye-opening experience to us, helping us to understand who we are before we shared what we know with the general public, right? Because oftentimes we get up and we share information we don't really know where we're getting it from. But being on the ground and seeing other people buying into what we are saying, because we would have done the research and it was credible. During that time, Bobby Morris had said that there used to be a tour, a walking tour to the different plantations so that persons could have had that experience. And we recognized that there was never any for our students. So as opposed to having a walking tour, that's where that idea came from, then to take them on that heritage tour. What we did for our parish project is that we would have taken the students from the 7 primary schools to the different plantations, because obviously we would have discovered Otterson in this. So we would have taken them on a musical heritage tour to show them our intangible heritage. Instead of always going to them to speak, so we took them to the various plantations so they could get an understanding. So when we look at it, we wanted to really show our students the history of who we are as people. History that's not always taught in schools. History that cannot always be found in classrooms or in books. Being there, experiencing it, understanding the journey of our ancestors. Our community would have been involved. Our committee members, so we would have had committee member Esther Sargent, who would have been very, very, very heavily involved with the project. With this aspect of the project, she was very passionate about it, and we would have connected with Bobby Morris, and she was that link between that connection, getting all of that research as well. We would have had McKinney Calendar as well, working along with our project, and Shade Calendar. From our community, we would have had David Brathwaite. He is our youth commissioner for the St. Philip area, as well as community person Stephen Mason. We would have also had the pastors from a nearby church come over and actually bless what was actually taking place. And that was fantastic. We had community person Stephen Hines, who would have assisted us in transporting, planting, you know, getting that all done.
I wanted to get to the root of Bussell and Franklin, because here's the discourse in Barbados. In my view, there is absolutely no question at all that Franklin was the mastermind of the 1816 revolt. He was the mastermind. He used to walk around this plantation, Fairfield Plantation, and his father's plantation. That they never come back to them. But he used to walk around this plantation with a little boy because he was family to all of them. He was family to the owners of these plantations. So I said, let me find him. How would I find him? I went looking at records in the archives at the plantation. And I found a boy called Bussell.
Let the record state that there is no record at this time with Bussell coming to Barbados. At the time, slaves, documentation for slaves coming into Barbados was a must, right? But there's no record of that for Bussell.
There was something called a Slave Registry Act. Like you had to register the slaves on your plantation. So if the people went around and saw somebody that was young and from Africa, that person would have broken the law, whoever brought in that child. So that was the purpose. Covenant is still on the 1817 list. Bussell is not there, of course. Bussell is dead in 1816. Covenant is 60 years old. So presuming that Covenant and Bussell were boys, they would have been about the same age. And nobody would have been bringing in a young man from Africa. They brought full slaves. They didn't bring children. Bussell was born in Barbados, in St. Philip, on the same plantations as Franklin. Now, what I have found?
So since 2010, the St. Philip community, as well as the committee, have been retelling the Bussell Rebellion story. And we would have used grassroots talents to do so through poetry, dance, dramatization, singing, whatever the talent is. We ask them to come and do their depiction of what the rebellion is or what the rebellion means to them. So this year, on April 30th, we would have gone to the Princess Margaret School, the hub of all activities, because it's central, right? It's easy access to everyone. And we would have connected with churches, school, students, you know, and offered the platform to share their story with us. We would have also worked with Shade Canada, who was our floor member. She works at the Barbados Library. So on April 30th, what we would have done, we would have transformed the Princess Margaret School Hall. We would have had, you know, short writers of him. And we know that this is factual because it came from the library. So this is not us deciding as a committee. This is what we know. We did the research and we offer the people of a history of who we are. Our culture is important, and Philippines are very proud of this. Philippines are known to be different in everything they do, and they attribute their difference to Bussell. So, like I said, we transformed the Princess Margaret School Hall. We thank all of our sponsors who would have assisted us with this. And we would have had performances from the nearby churches who would have come and who would have sang. You know, we keep it local. We would have had a reading from our committee member, Esther Sargent, at the time, really sharing the story of Bussell, and that was really, really well received. We had singing from our students. We had dancing from the Bailey's Primary School. It was a fantastic evening, really well received.
So I'm gonna stand up, taking my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home. All across the river, and you hear freedom calling, calling me to Oh, you tell me to forget that you did the wrong things and didn't let my children know. But alright, I say I shall go.
An excellent project organized by the St. Philip Parish Independence Committee, which showcased the talent of the parishioners while educating the community. We turn our attention now to the parish of St. Joseph. Their committee used the opportunity to showcase the flora and the fauna of this eastern parish while reflecting on the life and legacy of Sir Grant Lee Adams.
Well, we wanted the children two things: to be able to tour Cocoa Hill Forest, because lots of people do not know about it. And also we wanted them to know about Sir Grant Lee Adams. He was our representative for over 20 years in St. Joseph. So we wanted them to know about him, even though he has passed, you know. When they go back to school, they would have been able to discuss with their teachers what they were told about Sir Grant Lee Adams. And then they would be able to tell them too about the trail and, you know, the forest. It's massive. So I said, you know something, let me discuss it with the committee and let us involve the 4 schools in our parish, which should be St. Bernard's, St. Joseph, St. Elizabeth Primary, and Grant Lee Adams Memorial, the secondary. So we did that. Originally, we were supposed to have 15 students from each school, 1 teacher. But some schools asked for more, so we granted them that. And we even had a principal. One of the principals, she came with us as well. And we made arrangements with Mr. Patel. He's the owner of Cocoa Hill Forest. And when we got there, we went on a hike. You know, he has, I don't know if you ever went there, but he has lots of trails. It's a massive property. It's on the same road as Flower Forest. He's on the left, Flower Forest is a little further on the right. So you're on this trail, so you go down the valley and up in the hills and down, and it's not easy trail at all, but we made it. And then after that, I did the presentation on Sir Grant Lee to the students and the teachers and so on. At the end of that, each person was given a packed lunch because they would have missed lunch at school. So the principals had told me that we have to give them a packed lunch. So we did that. But it was really a success. The presentation was just about the achievements of Sir Grant Lee Adams. You know, he was the first Premier of Barbados. You know, he had left and went to overseas to form this Federation of the Caribbean Islands, but that didn't work out, so he came back home. He was knighted by Queen Elizabeth. So it was interesting, you know, and they had the opportunity to ask me questions throughout, because they told them at the beginning if they wanted to ask anything, they could. And strange enough, it's the smaller ones who were asking the questions. They were excited. What I did, I wrote it in a way that the younger ones from the primary schools would understand, and the ones from the secondary school would not be bored. So they understood it quite well. It benefited St. Joseph because the children were able to go home and tell their parents what they learned, what they saw. All know, because I work closely with the schools, and all know when I go to the schools, some of the children that are still asking me, when am I taking them back to Cocoa Hill Forest? Some are asking, when am I taking them on another tour? They really enjoyed it. And the teachers enjoyed it as well. I think it was an initiative which gave the children the opportunity to know that something about our national heroes, not necessarily in St. Joseph alone, but as I told, each parish had a national hero. So they were able to know about their national heroes and know what it signifies, so that when they see the new monument now on Broad Street, they already have an idea of who these persons were if they did not know before.
The parish of Christ Church focused on Sarah Ann Gill and her struggle for religious freedom in Barbados. The committee used a dual approach as part of its celebrations.
The church that was named after her is in St. Michael, but because of the number of Methodist churches in Christ Church, that's why Christ Church was given the project. We thought about all the things that we could do, and obviously we would have heard about the different projects that the other parishes were doing, but we thought that we should go into the schools because 2 of our committee members had some great connections with the schools. myself being a teacher at one of them, and Michelle Shepherd, who was the treasurer at the time, she had a good connection with St. Lawrence. So that's why we chose to go into those two primary schools in particular. Well, you know, it's important that we pass on the information that we would have grown up with to the younger generation so that they are well affiliated with what makes Barbados Barbados, or what the nation builders did to help build up Barbados. And Sarah Angel was one of those nation builders that was instrumental in standing up for Black people and for Methodism. We wanted to leave a memento to commemorate this whole activity that we would have done. So with the assistance of the National Conservation Commission, we donated 2 benches, obviously painted in orange to represent Christchurch. And we donated them to the Hawthorne Methodist. So we donated those benches there, and they're very well displayed in the daycare section. And so as people come in and they come to pick up their children or even go to church, they're able to see something that was done in commemoration of the National Heroes Day activities. We targeted 2 primary schools, which was Arthur Smith Primary and St. Lawrence Primary. And Arthur Smith, well, both of them, we were all focusing on Sarah Angel and what she would have done, her history. And Arthur Smith was focusing on Hawthorne Methodist Church, and St. Lawrence was focusing on Providence Methodist Church. Because we had such good relationships with these schools, I would have spoken to Mrs. Akia Brathwaite, who was the social studies and civics teacher at the time. And we liaised, and she gave her consent. And so we agreed that we would have the children work throughout the vacation. And let me tell you, they did, and they were able to send a lot of their write-ups online by email, and I was able to proofread. So I, along with the help of Miss Hobbs, who was their class teacher, which was 3A at the time, we were able to get those things done over the vacation. Now, when we got back to school, it was like a what do we call it? A lot of bustle, busyness trying to get these things started, and the children really pulled out the stops, because before that I would have briefed them and said that, you know, another school is also involved, so be creative, think about doing some creative pieces, some models, and they really did show out. They brought in their projects, they wrote some nice creative pieces, and with the immense help of Mrs. Brathwaite, they were able to even prepare a dramatic piece which delved into a lot of the facts around Sarah Angel.
Yes, sir. We can burn it down. Fly to the ground. Burn it down. Talking about you like Methodist. Lord, so many of my friends are my enemies. You did not create me to worry, not fear. I will trust you. In the mighty name of Jesus. Yes,
And also, we were able to incorporate Class 2A along with Mrs. Husbands Griffith, and they did an acrostic. They did a one child did a model of the Hawthorne Methodist Church, and one even did a Jeopardy. They prepared a Jeopardy which had lots of information on Sarah Angel and the facts around Hawthorne Methodist Church. So some also came dressed in costumes, like artistic representations of or interpretations of what the people at that time would have looked like, or the different characters in these stories. So we also had some great help with a lot of the teachers and ancillary staff at the school, like Auntie Lana and Auntie Jennifer and Miss Green. They came in and did different models. They design letters, and they even dubbed the project the heroine of Methodism. So on the day of the displays, we even had the teachers from St. Lawrence. They came across to view the display at Artismith. And well, when we were through, we went across, Mrs. Brathwaite and I went across to view the displays at St. Lawrence. And they did some very good artistic presentations, models of the church and other like Methodist church. And they even had some nice stars. There was a door that you could open. There were some stars describing Sarah Angel, with words such as godly or brave or forgiving. Out of that project, I could say that I myself learned a lot, and the students were able to gain a lot of information. Even up to this day, they still talk about their dramatic piece, because I teach that class now, and they still sing the songs that they would have written, and they recite the words of the play sometimes. And I think that was, what would I say? That was a great, it was cemented in their minds, right? That's what I want to say. It was cemented in their minds forever. The history of Sarah Angel and what she would have done. And I think that was the goal of what we wanted to achieve through this project, to educate the younger people.
Wonderful. And that precisely is the goal of the Season of Emancipation, to pass knowledge and information from generation to generation as we continue our efforts to build a society that recognizes its heritage, is conscious of its history, and honors the contributions of its ancestors. Join us next week at the same time as we reimagine the past and celebrate the future. I'm Rashid Best. Thanks for your time.